All right. So, Sydney Sherman sees dead people. From childhood, Sydney has had an awareness of the energies around her and around all of us. As her sensitivity has grown over the years, she has been able to guide others to open themselves to their own spirits, to make those energies a part of their lives. Sydney loves skeptics. She knows many of us have already experienced something that is beyond normal scientific understanding, the definition of paranormal, but acceptance is not always an easy process. She hopes that each of us can determine the reality of the afterlife and the paranormal on our own terms. Sydney's goal, and that of her book, is to give clarity, a better understanding of the afterlife, of the spirits around you, and what is in store for all of us. Through her presentations, workshops, classes, private consultations, and the like, many people have become very successful in learning how to use what they already have to make that special connection every day. With that, thank you, Sydney, for being with us today, and I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. And thank you everybody for coming in today. That was a wonderful opening. I don't know if I'm going to be able to top that, but actually pretty much you just said my whole spiel, so I'm good. Thank you for coming. This is a great opportunity. I'm still getting used to Zoom. I'm not very good at not having audience interaction. I'm used to people laughing at me because I'm actually quite funny, but I'm going to do my best. So we've done a couple of these so far. My assistant Peggy, as Peggy said hi, is on the horn, and we've done a few so far, and each one I think we get a little more comfortable with. So I want to thank the Blackstone Library for having me back. I've been at the library itself a few times for presentations, actually in person, but this is new, and hopefully we'll get back to in person sometime soon. I am a paranormal author, so what I usually do is I describe to people a little bit about myself, so you don't think I'm a complete strange lady, which I am. Because most people, if they don't know my backstory, they just don't know where I'm coming up with all this information I'm going to provide. So we're going to talk a little bit about me and a little bit about my book, a little bit why it is that our loved ones are still here, why you can connect with them, why anybody can connect with them. I am not special. Things that you can do to enhance that connection, and it's a lot of information in a short period of time, but I'm sure you'll have plenty of questions. I'll be happy to answer them when I'm done. So with that being said, first of all, can everybody hear me okay? Is my volume okay? Good. All right. So I was born in Milford. For those of you who are in Connecticut here, it's a little small town. It's gotten bigger over the years. In the 60s. I can only see a few of your faces, and some of you look like you may be around the same age as me. So for those of you who are younger, you may not remember the 60s. The 60s were a much different time than now. You know, usually the mom stayed home, and the dad went to work, and kids were kids. They weren't in front of the TV sets. They weren't in front of their computer screens. They were outside playing. I was a normal kid. I was into Girl Scouts and brownies, and I was in gymnastics. My father was a police officer, and my mother was a stay-at-home mom, pretty typical also for the 60s. And we were a normal family. There was nothing different in our home, you know, that was going on just about every other home. I didn't even know that I was different, if that's the word that you want to use. I don't choose to use that word, but I did know that something was a little off with me when I had an experience when I was about 6 years old, and I was in kindergarten standing outside my elementary school, and I was having a conversation with a girl in line, when all of a sudden a little girl walked up to me, which I'll use the term spirit girl at this point, and starts talking to me. Well, of course, I'm talking back to her, and my friend who I was talking to wants to know who he's speaking to. And of course, I think she's a little crazy for asking me that. We're 6. And I motioned over to the little girl, and she tells me there's no one there. So I'm really thinking that she's just either being strange or whatever. And I started getting in an argument with her, as 6-year-olds might. She called me stupid. I called her stupid. And next thing you know, I ran home crying to my mommy because all the kids in line were laughing at me. When I got home, I told my mother what happened. And it just so happens my grandfather, who was very instrumental in what I do, was living with us. My grandfather was a very bad alcoholic. The scenario would be he'd drink too much, his wife would throw him out, we'd have him for a couple of days, he'd get sober, he goes back home, cycle, cycle, cycle. This happened to be one of the times he was with us. My mother turned around and looked at him after I told her what happened at school, and she said, take her. And I first thought, am I going to get a spanking because I left school, or what, was going to happen? My grandfather would never spank me, so that was fine. So my grandfather took me out to the old-fashioned station wagons. If anybody remembers the 60s, they had the wood paneling on the side, and they had the back seat that faced the back. Always an exciting adventure. And we sat there, and he looked at me and he said, Sydney, you see who you see, and you hear who you hear. And that's okay. That's normal for you. But you have to shh. All right, well, I'm 6. I don't know any 6-year-old who knows anything about shh. But what I did know, especially back then, that there was something wrong, because usually back then parents did not discuss personal things with kids. Kids should, what's the old saying? Kids should be seen and seldom heard, or whatever. But parents just didn't discuss things with kids. So I was frightened because I thought I had a secret. And for a kid back then, that was very scary. My grandfather attempted to explain to me what it was that I was seeing and experiencing, and that which I had since probably the first time I opened my eyes. Before I go into that, I want to explain something to you. I've always seen what I have seen. It's just that when you're a child, before you see TV and you're biased, by adults' views, what you see, you see. And I would see spirits, if that's what you choose to call them, all the time. I just thought they looked different. They were people, but they looked different. I didn't know anything about death at the time because nobody in my family who was close to me had died. So I hadn't experienced that, and it was not a topic that was discussed in the house. But when I saw these people, I just assumed that that's exactly what they were. So to give you an idea of what's going on in my little brain as a child is when you see someone who's of a different culture, they're people, they just look different. Their hair is different, their eyes are different, their skin color is different, but they're people. Well, that's what I thought. So my grandfather explained to me this way. Now, please bear with me because try to put your mind back to when you were 6 years old, not with all the knowledge you have now as an adult, because I didn't have that advantage. And see if you could follow along and see if you would understand as a 6-year-old what my grandfather was trying to say. My grandfather, as I, feel that we, our energy, is part of this vast universe that's around us. And that this is where we originate from, and this is where we come from, and this is what we go back to. When our mother gets pregnant with us, here's our energy. We get the physical self. This is, as he said, the candy-coated shell. So, of course, I'm 6 years old. I'm thinking M&M, so I really wasn't listening. So here's the candy-coated shell. This is our physical self. This is our body. This is our skin. This is our organs. This is time-stamped. This is frail. This can get cancer, diabetes, heart disease, psychological stressors. This is frail. This is time-stamped. It only lasts so long. This is our energy. It is not human. But this is how we go about our life. At some point in time, there's a separation, once again, of our physical self, the frail human body, the flesh, the carcass, if you want to call it. It goes in the ground, cremated and or buried, whichever your choice happens to be, but you're still here. That of which who you truly are, where you originally came from the universe, your energy is still here. You haven't gone anywhere. This is gone. Okay, without being able to hear your responses, I'm 6 years old. Do any of you think at 6 years old you would have gotten that? So my first thought was, well, Pop-Pop's drinking again. I mean, really, that's the first thought that I had. But all I can tell you is what I came away with that day, and he explained some more, was that something is wrong with me and or my family, and I have a secret. So as I got a little bit older, I learned very well, and God bless my mother, because what she had to go through in the 60s is a much different time than it is now. I pretty much kept my secret to myself. One of the times I didn't, and it caused a little trouble, was if anybody remembers back in the day, we used to play a game outside called Duck, Duck, Goose. And I guess they don't let you play it anymore because kids can't touch each other, although that's what my assistant Peggy says. The kids aren't allowed to play it, which is a shame. But if you remember the game, we all sit in a circle. One kid goes around, taps the head, and goes duck, duck, duck. And whoever gets picked goose is the next person who gets to run around the circle and chase everybody. Well, I was never picked. I was not a popular kid. I was very quiet. I was a loner. And I just used to sit there and wait for life to pass me by and the day to be over because I knew I was never going to be picked. Well, here comes Mike Miller, the most popular kid in second grade, if that's even a possibility. And he comes around, taps me on the top of my head and says, "Goose." Well, I just am so excited. To think about it for a second. I got up, I was so excited, and I started to go around, but I'm going slow because I know I'll never have this opportunity again in my life. So I'm taking my time. So I'm hitting the top of the kids' heads, duck, duck, duck. And I'm thinking to myself, as a second grader would back in the day, I have to pick a popular kid, because if I pick a popular kid, then I too will be popular. I mean, that's how it works, right? So I'm trying to eye the circle to see who will be popular. And as I'm eyeing the circle, I see this little girl sitting on the ground who was in my class, who was about as pathetic as I was. Nobody ever picked her for anything. But there was a lovely woman standing behind her telling me to pick her. Well, I don't want to pick her because then I won't be popular. Well, my mother raised me right. When I got over to her, I hit her on the top of the head and I said, "Goose," and I went running. She didn't get up. So I went back, I tapped her on the top of the head again. I said, "Goose," and she still didn't run. With that, I turn around, look at the woman who was standing behind her, and I said, "She's Goose. You told me to pick her. I tapped her on the head. She's not getting up, and she's Goose." And all the kids in the circle are laughing at me. And I realized right away, ruh-roh, number one, I'm going to get in trouble because I was pretty much told in the house that I just got to be careful about what I do. And the kids are laughing at me, and I knew that they were going to make my life absolutely horrible. I went back into the school and just waited for the torment to be over. And when the kids all came back in, they sat in their chairs. They did not say a word to me. They didn't make fun of me. And the teacher, who was my favorite, asked me if I wanted to go outside and clap erasers. Well, who didn't? I mean, that was the big highlight of the day, clapping erasers outside. When we were out there, she didn't say a word to me until we were getting ready to walk in. And then she said, "You know, Sydney, we're all a little different." I always wondered if she knew, if she had a thought, or if she was just being kind. But for the most part, the rest of my life, I was pretty good about keeping my secret to myself. In my book that I wrote, which is actually the heading for this presentation, "You Are Not Alone." Usually I ask the audience at this time how many people have read it, how many people have seen me before my presentations, have seen me either on TV or read about me in a magazine or on the radio, but obviously it's a little hard for people to answer here. So this is my first book. I don't know if you can see it. It's called "You Are Not Alone." Our loved ones are here, you're just not listening. This lovely man on the front cover, you can see him, that's Papa. And the reason I put him on the cover of the book is because he was very instrumental in my development, and probably the reason I understand as much as I do. So after I went through the young teen years, the younger middle school years, when I was about in 7th grade, I had a teacher. His name was Mr. Jarosco. And he started talking to the class about the law of conservation of energy. Now, if anybody remembers that from school, if you don't, I get it. But you might remember that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can be manipulated and altered, but it can't be created and destroyed. So as he's talking and I'm listening, the words of my grandfather pop up, are coming back in my head. And this is the theory, just so you know, for those of you who don't remember or been out of school for a long time. So if energy cannot create it, and we are energy beings, every physicist, biologist, everybody knows and agrees we are energy beings. It's what makes us work. So if energy cannot be created, does it make sense that we are only allowed one time to live with this physical body like this? That's where the people who believe in reincarnation come in. They feel it doesn't make sense that we're part of this vast universe for millennium, but we only get the one time in a physical body. I can't answer that question for you. I don't know how I feel about reincarnation. I know the science is there. I can't tell you whether I've ever been reincarnated, what I know. What I can say is I do believe that the science might be there to explain it. What I focus on more is the fact that if energy can't be destroyed, and we are energy beings, which everybody agrees, then technically we can't die. This dies, this, but we don't. We're still here. Our energy is still here. Well, I'm listening to this teacher talk and my brain just went, so I'm like, oh my God, that is what Pop-Up was trying to tell me so many years back in the back of the old station wagon, but a 6-year-old couldn't really comprehend. Now, my grandfather was raised in the Penobscot Reservation in Maine. He was not a learned man, so he certainly did not know of this law of conservation or anything idea, but he knew it. He knew it anyway. So of course I had an epiphany and I kind of understood it a little more, and I'm like, oh, okay, so there's a science for this. It makes perfect sense. When I got to be in high school, I decided after seeing Amityville Horror and Poltergeist, all wonderful shows, I mean, I love them myself, but people were getting the wrong thought about what happens to us when we die. They had the poor perception of what death is and what happens to us, you know, in their next life. And that really offended me because, you know, we're going to die someday too. And really people should have a really good understanding of what happens in the process. But, you know, all we have to go by is what we see on TV. So I decided that I was going to, the best way I could without outing myself, I was going to start educating people. So I formed the very first paranormal group in New England called Connecticut Ghost Hunters. That was 1978. I am very proud of the group because were we the first, but we were the type that we didn't want people to think that everything they saw on TV was true. Most things could be explained, and that if they stopped for a moment with the nonsense and they just were a little rational, they'd have their own experiences, and they probably already did. So we were very popular, and now there's like 4,000 groups or something like that, but we were the first. And we helped a lot of people. And we helped explain to people that when things were happening in their homes, chances are it was grandpa or grandma or Uncle Ed. It wasn't a demonic spirit as they had seen in the shows on TV. So I went on to college and I became a nurse. And then I got married, met a wonderful man, and I wound up having 2 children. And that's how my life was for a while. 2012 comes along, and here we go with the shows on TV, the Ghost Hunters, Paranormal State, Paranormal Puppy, and the resurgence again. Well, now I'm an adult and I can make my own decisions. So I decide, you know, I'm going to try to let people know what really happens, because it's very, very important. People are missing opportunities with their loved ones every single day. You know, when I used to be able to go into Stop and Shop, because I don't go in there now because of COVID, but when I used to be able to go into Stop and Shop, I would see people standing in line, reaching for a can of peas on the shelf. And a loved one was standing behind him and putting their hand, so to speak, on their shoulder. The person would react. The person would stop, look back in the right area, go like this with their hand, like they're swiping something off, even maybe turn behind them and look, and then go back for that can of peas. And I think to myself, they're right there. Oh my God, they are right there. They feel it. They know something's different, but they're not putting the work in to take it to the next level. So I thought to myself, what's the best way of trying to get people's attention that is not like the TV shows? I knew I had a big role to fill, because people prefer stuff that scares them. People prefer stuff that doesn't make sense. But I decided to write a book. I am a nurse. If I didn't have a good editor, it probably would have been from the beginning of the book to the end, one long run-on sentence without periods or punctuation and misspelled words. But I wanted it to sound like I'm talking to you right now. And that is what most people have said, that the book sounds like I'm speaking to them right now. It's very clear, very easy to understand. It's very scientific. It's all based upon what science already knows about the afterlife and what happens with us. But it's a very easy to read book. Again, I'm not sure what you can see, but it's a pretty thin book. It's what I call like maybe a 1 or 2 bathroom read. And people usually laugh at that time, so go ahead, you can laugh if you'd like. But what I will say about this tiny little book is it has been read and sold on every continent except for Antarctica. So usually at this point, my assistant says, Peggy's muted. What Peggy usually says is she's going to send the book to Antarctica so people can read it, so I can stop saying that.
I couldn't
But it
understand
really,
fast enough.
oh, okay. So go ahead, you can say it.
Yes, I'm going to send it to the Antarctica.
You're going to send it to the polar bears?
No, there's scientists down there.
Okay, whatever. Send a book and then I can stop saying that.
Okay, I
But
will.
what amazes me more is this little book that I actually did right here in my small little house, why it's so popular. And people are reading it and rereading it. And libraries have a hard time keeping it on the shelf. And honestly, I'm a little shocked. I mean, it's a good book. It's not that great, but it's a good book. And I think what people have told me the reason why they like it so much is because it's easy to read and it makes sense. And when they read it, they understand that, wow, I've had that experience myself. I just didn't know what it was. So I think that's why it was so popular. After that, I wrote 2 more books, Gifted Innocence, and that's for adults to see if they have a gifted child, if they think that they have a gifted child. And I hate using that term, but it's what people understand. And then My Gifted Innocence, and that is a color, kind of like a coloring book for a child to draw what they're seeing, so they're not afraid of it, so that they understand it. So that's what I've been doing. And then I started on the TV and then radio and then magazines and all sorts of stuff. And I was very busy and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all because all of a sudden people started seeing me like all the other people on TV. And that's not what I started doing this for. So I pulled back. I stay more local. I do a lot of libraries. I do colleges. I do things like that. But I started doing workshops because the truth is, anything that I do, you can all do. Nobody is really gifted in that term. We all have the ability to connect with our loved ones. The deal is getting rid of the biases that we have of what we think happens when we die, knowing what they really do sound like, smell like, feel like. It's not what you think. And then that's all you need. You have it. And so Peggy and myself have been doing workshops for a few years now. And for the majority of people, I would say probably good 90%, they're very successful and they do very, very well. Because you have not done this all your life and is new, it's like anything else. You have to practice. You got to train your brain to do what it's supposed to do in the first place. You've just never used it in that way. So we're going to discuss some of those things today because the workshops are usually a couple hours long, so I can't go into every part of it. But I do want you to understand that there's nothing that I am doing that you can't do. Before anybody asks me the question, I don't do readings anymore. I don't do spiritual readings anymore, and there's several reasons for that. But the most important reason is I was burnt out. I was giving readings probably every single day of the week. My readings were 2, sometimes 3 hours long, pack a lunch. I have lupus, and it was just getting very draining. And what I found is that instead of people taking the information I gave them, taking it home and practicing so that they didn't have to come back and see me, so that they could just talk to their loved ones on their own. They weren't putting the time in because it was too easy just to make another appointment with Sydney. And I'm sorry, that's lazy, and I don't like lazy. So I pulled away from it. But the other biggest reason is my youngest son had 6 strokes and asked me to stop doing this because he saw that I was over agitated, that I was tired, that I was not getting enough rest, and I really didn't like doing it anymore. And so for him, as he said to me that day in the hospital room, he says, all me and my brother know is weird people coming into our house, sitting on the couch, you talking to them for hours and them crying, and then they pay you money. He said, that's all we know as kids growing up. We don't really know anything different. And it's time to stop. So with that, as there's probably many parents out there, if you make a promise to your child, you really try to keep it. And I'm sorry, I'm a worrywart. It just, something tells me that if I break my promise to my son, that something will happen to him. I know that's probably just completely ridiculous, but that's how I feel. So, but I will tell you that since I stopped that and put my foot down and I've forced people, if they want to know, to do the workshops or to do the classes or whatever, they are doing very well on their own. And they're actually taking control of it, and they don't have to come see me anymore. They can say good morning in the morning and say good night at night. And when they're stressed, they can have their loved ones with them. So to me, that's more important. So that's what I'm sticking to. So after I did the book and all that other stuff and the workshops that we do, normally what we explain to people is I first try to tell you what you see on TV is completely wrong. And let me explain why. I had an opportunity about a year after the book came out, to do a series on Lifetime. Well, that was awesome. All right. I'm thinking to myself, I don't watch Lifetime, but you know, that would be pretty good. Well, when we were in production talks, and I was telling the producers and the writers the kind of things that people really experience in real life that really goes on, what they kept asking me was, well, you know, where's the drama? Where's the person getting shoved down the stairs? Or where's the person getting their arms scratched with all these, you know, like razor blade marks on their arms? I'm like, that doesn't happen. Well, there has to be some drama or people aren't going to watch. He's right. What I'm going to talk to you about today would not make for a good TV series. It just wouldn't, because it's too rational, it's too scientific, and it's not scary. But it's more important, and I hope you see it that way. So some of the things that they teach you on the shows is that when we die, we all come back to try to right a wrong, or we're upset about how we died, or we're missing our loved ones, or we're crying from the grave, or we're crawling out of the grave, or all this nonsense. So let me break it down for you very easily. Again, common sense. Anger, resentment, sadness, fear, anxiety, pain, those are all human emotions. They're not human anymore. Remember, this was human, this is gone. They're not human anymore. So no, they're not sad, they're dead. They're not grieving. They're not missing us. They're not groaning. They're not in pain. They're not doing any of that stuff. They can't. They're not human. Those are human things. So, I mean, when I explain that to people, they're like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. So when you see the things on TV where they've been trapped, they're trapped in this house, the spirit is trapped in this house. Spirit ain't trapped anywhere. They can go wherever they want, be wherever they want, whatever time they want. They don't miss a beat. They're at every birthday party, every wedding, every bar mitzvah. They are there. The other thing is that you have to go to a cemetery to visit them. Well, I don't believe in cemeteries. I don't like them. They kind of give me the creeps. Only because of the fact that when you're there, it's a bunch of dead carcasses. I mean, it's a bunch of dead carcasses. I know people want a place to go to feel close and be connected to their loved one, but let me share something with you. When you go to the cemetery to see your loved one is in fact there. They are absolutely there. I'm never going to tell you that they're not. But when you get back in your car to go to Taco Bell, they're going with you. So they're not there. They're not at a cemetery just waiting for a visit. That's another misnomer. Some of the stuff that they tell you about having to wait, you know, you have to wait till they get acclimated to the other side. All right, again, there's no acclimation. We have to acclimate to weather, to a new relationship, to a new place of business, to a new job. They don't have to acclimate. They are already acclimated. So if somebody tells you, well, you know what, they got to wait a little while before you can connect with them, baloney. They don't have to check their luggage in. They don't have to sign their name. They don't have to have a meeting. It's very clear. They can be with you the minute that they pass. They're with you. So I am a nurse, and as an RN in Connecticut, I pronounced many, many people dead. I mean, that's part of the job. And I will tell you that I probably 8 out of 10 times before the person has stopped breathing or before their heart has stopped beating, they've left the building. They're gone. There's a separation that happens, a transition. The brain has just not decided yet to stop the vital signs. But the spirit, the energy has left the carcass. And you can stand there and you can watch it and you can watch the separation. And what they do is they don't float up into the space like you see on TV. They literally come and stand right next to their loved ones. And you have to stand there next to the bedside. And as a nurse, I have to wait until the brain has decided that they're going to stop breathing and there's no more reaction in the brain, no chemical, going through the brain to tell the heart to stop pumping. It could be 15, 20 minutes, a half an hour, but I got to stand there and wait before I can pronounce them when they've already been gone. The person that they were is already gone. The other thing that people talk about was, well, when they died, they were in pain, so they're probably still in pain now, and that's all they remember is pain. Unless somebody's dying from something like cancer, something that's riddling their body, or a lot of pain, usually medications are very good to take care of stuff like that. Sometimes they don't cut the mark. But what I want to tell you is I'm not going to tell you they didn't die in pain, some of them. What I am going to tell you is as soon as that transition happens, there's no more pain. So a lot of people love to hear that because they don't want to think that they went right to the very last breath or to the last heartbeat in pain, because they did not. The other thing that they tell us is on TV is that you have to be aware of shadow people. I'm not sure how many of you have watched the TV shows. Again, they're good, they're exciting, they can be fun to watch, but they are for entertainment purposes only. Now, shadow people. Well, just the name shadow makes you think they're scary. They're dark. That means they're negative energy, which is not good. When I see my aunt who's passed away, sometimes the best I can see her is in a shadow form. I know it's her. I can tell by her voice and other things. I don't know if it's me or if it's her, but all I know is that since she's passed away, that's how she presents. And I've seen others present in a shadow form. And what those shows are teaching you is, instead of going toward your loved one, run away from them because they're scary. Heck, I might present to our loved ones when we're dead someday as a shadow, and they're going to be running away from us. That's why it's so important that people understand now, because we all are going to die, what happens, so we can prepare and we can share it with our loved ones. I'm glad this is being recorded, because the more people who know, who can prepare, who can have connections with their loved ones now, to me, that's the best of everything. So if you have ever been in a room by yourself and all of a sudden you think you smell cigarette smoke, okay? Oh, Dad used to smoke cigarettes all the time. Dad must be here with me. Okay, maybe, maybe not. You don't know that. Sometimes we get smells that just happen to come our way, and it has nothing to do with anything. So Peggy and I developed a workshop called Understanding Your Senses. Why is this important? It's because your senses, your energy that is going to picking up mom, dad, brother, sister, ex-husband, husband, son-in-law, whoever, that's who's going to be picked up. That's what's going to be picking them up. So what you need to do is you need to know how these senses work, and they don't work like you think. So for anybody who's in medicine, who's listening right now, you guys already know this, you can take a nap. But for anybody who's not, you need to understand the nose does not smell. The ears don't hear, the eyes don't see, okay? And I know you're probably looking at me like I'm a nut, but truly that's how it works. So I'm just gonna tell you about the nose, okay? Because I'm not gonna give the whole workshop, like I said, is 4 hours long, but the nose sits in the middle of your face. You have two nostrils. Molecules break down the environment, they go up your nose. You have a little resistor, like a chip right here at the top of the bridge of your nose in your septum. It has a bunch of little receptors on it. It sends a signal to the brain. The brain uses its memory banks, and the brain says, oh, it's burnt toast. Your nose didn't smell that. The brain figured it out with the receptors based on past experiences. Your ears. Again, sounds come in when you and I talk, when I'm talking to you now. I'm on sound waves. That's how you hear me. It's frequency, vibration, intonation. When our loved ones speak, our loved ones are not on any kind of like that type of vibration, because they don't have a voice box. The voice box creates the tone, the frequency, the intonation. They don't have that anymore. So they're just on a more of electromagnetic frequency. The ear hears it the same, but the sound comes in, goes past the cochlear membrane, and again, there's a little chip, a little receptor deep inside the inner ear, sends a signal to the brain. The brain says, oh, that was a loud bang. What I'm telling you is that unless you know how your senses work, they can be confused. For those of you who've watched the shows on TV, you may have heard of a term called matrixing. Matrixing is a very, very real thing. And forget the paranormal, our brains matrix and our senses matrix things all the time. Example, if you've ever laid on your back and looked up at the sky and you see some clouds and they look like two puppies fighting, well, no, you know it's not two puppies fighting. It's how the clouds are formed. Your eyes see that, send it back to the brain goes through its memory banks, and your brain is required to figure out what it's seeing, hearing, smelling, and feeling. That's one of its requirements. So your brain tells you and makes you see two puppies fighting when we know it's not. That's called matrixing. Our nose does the same thing. So if you think you smell Dad's smoke, well, I'm going to tell you, you're probably wrong. But before I get into why you're wrong, I want to explain something else to you. Us dying, the afterlife, the process of death is so easy and so naturally and so easily explained and well documented back into the 1600s. There shouldn't be all this confusion and nonsense about it, but there is. Such as the word paranormal. Again, I use it because it's what people understand. I prefer people don't use ghosts. I prefer people don't use some other words, but they do. But think about the word paranormal. Paranormal simply means anything above or outside the normal. So if I eat a bagel every morning for breakfast and tomorrow I have Rice Krispies, that's paranormal. Now see how ridiculous this can possibly get, but people cling on to things like that. So we're going to talk about your nose. So what Peggy and I do when we have our workshop is we try to get people to understand that they can't trust their senses completely, especially if you want to connect with your loved ones. So we put blindfolds on people, and they don't like that too much, but Peggy and I think it's funny, right, Peggy? So Peggy and I will go around and we'll ask people, you know, do you think, and I want you all to, you can't answer me, but I want you all to think about it. If I put a piece of, if you were blindfolded, and I put a piece of chocolate under your nose and I didn't tell you what it was, do you think you could smell it and tell me what it was? Or a tea bag, or coffee, or a cigarette, or an orange, or garlic, or a rose? Most people would say, for the most part, yeah, I think I recognize that. Those are things that we say that we know the scent. So once we blindfold them and we put one of those items under their nose, hence I have somewhere around here a cigarette, okay? They will sniff and they will sniff and they will sniff and they will sniff. And the craziest things that they come out with, Peggy and I try not to laugh, and we're not making fun of them. It's just because it's actually cute. Some people come, oh, I know what that is. That's shoe polish. Oh, I know what that is. That is the smell of the stuff that grows in the backyard that's yellow's marigolds, or dirt, or motor oil, or something. They don't come anywhere clear to the cigarette, but yet they could tell you that they knew it would be a cigarette if they put it in the nose. They're wrong 9 times out of 10. Now, once they take the blindfold off and they see it's a cigarette, and the eyes see it's a cigarette, you put this back under their nose, now they smell the cigarette. Because your senses don't work one alone. You have to have other senses to go with it. So if you can't see the smell of the cigarette smoke that you think is Dad's cigarette, is it really? You can't see Dad smoking it. All you have is to go by this. And we know the nose can be tricked. So you have to do what's called validation. And we do validation with every single sense. I don't think any of you would be on this Zoom today if you didn't care about this subject. Most people want to hear about this because they're concerned for a loved one. Maybe they're going through some problems themselves. Maybe they've had experiences, or they're just curious. But nobody's sitting here because they didn't have anything to do better on a Saturday afternoon in the fall. So the reason why I try to really drill this into people's heads is because if you're going to do this, if you really want to do this, you got to put the time in. And Peggy and I are willing to teach any way we possibly can. So you have to validate. The first thing you have to do is you have to be rational. And women don't like when I say this, but ladies, you're not rational. Men are rational. Men put everything in a square little box. If it doesn't fit in this box right here, they have no clue what to do. But they put everything gets dumped in the box. Women, every little knock on the wall, oh my God, it's a ghost. Okay, what I need the men to do is to get a little bit, come a little more in the center to meet the women, and the women to meet the men. I need to be rational, but not so rigid, and to be open.
Sydney, you gotta unmute.
How did I do that?
I did it, sorry.
You did it to me?
Well, I was trying to mute everybody that was coming in.
Oh, okay. All right. So what part didn't people hear? I'm not going to start. Hi, I'm Sydney Sherman. Thank you for coming. I'm not starting from the beginning.
No, it was when you were talking about the smells and stuff.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
It was only a minute.
Okay. So the point is you have to be very rational, and that's the only way you're going to know. So I'm going to use the analogy I always use in my presentations, and it seems to help people a lot. So you're washing dishes, la, 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 and I don't wash dishes, but I've seen it done on TV. So la, 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 you're washing dishes, and all of a sudden the smell of mom's Gina Tate comes in front of your nose. The first thing we normally do is like, oh my God, that smelled like Gina Tate, that smelled like mom. Oh, I miss her so much. I wish she was still here. Oh, well, and you go back to the dishes. I don't want you to do that anymore. I don't want you to do that anymore. What you need to do is acknowledge the smell. That's fine. First thing you do is look for the rational cause. Is it the dishwashing liquid? Is it your deodorant? Is it something coming in from the window outside because you got the window open? Could it be your lotion you put on? Is it a scent coming from the other room? Try to find a rational cause. Is it your Glade plug-in freshener that you have? If you cannot find the rational cause, and I'm going to tell you probably 7 out of 10 times you are going to find it and you'll be disappointed, but that's okay. Then you stop the dishes and you say, Mom, I think I smell your Gina Tate. If that was you, please come as close as you can to me, Mom. I need to smell the Gina Tate again. I miss you so much. And then you get, boom, there it is in your face. Okay? You get excited and you say, okay, Mom, thank you so much, but I really still need to know it's you. Please get as close to me as you can. I need to smell your Gina Tate again. Boof, there it is in your face. Ask a third time because you really want to make sure. And there it is again. You can do this all day long if you'd like. You can ask them 12 times to do it. Doesn't really matter. But what you need to understand is if you did the rational thing first, and if you ask them by name to repeat what your request was, and they did it over and over and over again, that takes happenstance out of the picture. You need to stop washing them dishes, and you need to go sit down and have a conversation with Mom. The more you do this, the more you allow your brain to recognize these different new feelings. The brain learns by repetition. Do you remember in school, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, over and over and over again? That's how the brain learns. So if you do this, the brain is remembering sense. It's remembering how the body felt. It's remembering all these different things. And it does become easier to do once you have allowed yourself to do it. So that's with the nose. It's the same thing with the ear. If you think that you hear them, you got to look for the rational cause. You think that you heard your name being called. Rational. Look and see if there's anybody else in the house. Is the TV on? Is there a radio on? Are the kids playing outside? If you can't find the cause, Mom, can you come close to my left ear right here? Just say my name, Mom, one word right here. And what you're going to probably feel is feels like you've got a bug caught in your ear. It's a little flipper. You're going to go, ooh, like that. That is when our brain is getting used to them, what it feels like when they first start sending that vibration to us. It's a little bit different than a vibration than what we're used to. So good, you had that vibration. Mom, thank you, but I really need to know that you're here. Please just say my name right here in my left ear. You always want to ask for the person, and then you always want to tell them what you want them to do. And you get that, like a bug crawling in your ear again. Then you throw a curveball at them. Mom, thank you so much. Now I need you to come over here to my right ear and just say my name. Ooh, and you get the buzz in this ear. Then you know. That's how you know. And you stop whatever you're doing and you go sit down and you start talking to Mom. So this is what Peggy and I do. We teach you how to use your senses, how to understand them, how to prepare them, how to get used to them, so you can learn to connect with them on their own without us. So that's pretty much what you need to do, but it does take practice and it doesn't happen overnight. What our other topic I usually talk about is a lot of people have come to many of my presentations and they sit in the front row usually and they growl at me or they spit. I've had a Coke can thrown at my head. And I'm thinking to myself, if these people don't want to hear what I have to say, why are they wasting their time coming to see me? But it's almost because they want to disprove me in front of a group. And I will tell you, other than one lady I've pretty much made friends with all of them, because when I got them to listen to what I was saying, when I got them to be able to communicate what was bothering them or why they were so upset, and usually it's because they went to psychics and mediums and they were lied to and they knew it. So they don't believe any of this stuff and they're hurt, and you can't blame them for feeling that way. But what I always go back to them is, because usually they say the same to me. The Bible clearly says the dead are dead and they ain't coming back. And the only people who can talk to the dead are demons or the devil. And it's not really your loved one, your mom and dad you're hearing. It's actually the devil talking to confuse you. Okay, so let me answer that. Not talking religion or anything like that. I have my beliefs. Y'all can have your own beliefs. But most people don't understand, or they haven't read, and some of you out here have read the Bible. Again, for those of you who know it very well, you can take a nap because you already know what I'm going to say. There's 4 parables in the Bible. Parable's a story, for those who don't know, which is okay, where they talk about a loved one coming back and visiting for a special occasion, to bring a message, to rejoice with them. These are in the Bible, okay? In no time in any of these parables did any of the people scream and yell it's a ghost and go run back to their huts and put their head under a blanket because they were scared. No, what said was they were exhilarated, they rejoiced, they were excited. Okay, well, that's great. And why is that? Because it was expected, because it happened all the time, and it was accepted because it happened all the time. So how did we go from that, where we were supposed to have communication with our loved ones, to where we are today, where we're just not even paying attention to them? And we're ignoring the fact that they're here, or we're watching paranormal shows and we just completely think it's just completely off the grid. Where did we go wrong? Well, again, normally what I do in my presentations where people can talk is I ask the audience, where do you think that this came from? You can have your own theories, but what I will tell you is that up until a certain time, this was the belief. Then we were taught to think a different way, and that's what we see today. So anybody wants to give you the argument, or if you've been taught that this goes against the Bible, goes against God, or anything else, it does not. You can read it for yourself. We are supposed to do this. So the next thing that I usually talk to people about is, remember back in school that we learned about all these different energies, right? Thermal energy.
Where'd you go again?
I'm here. Hello, can you hear me? Peggy? I don't know, somebody said, where'd you go again? I'm right here. Okay, should I keep talking? Everybody can hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know where I was now. And there you go, it's getting old. Excuse me. Where was I, Peggy? You know, you're not paying attention, and you're supposed to be my assistant.
Yeah.
Thermal
Okay.
energies.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Would you like to be my assistant? Anyway. Peggy, you've been replaced. All right. So, yeah, so we learned about chemical energy and thermal energy and nuclear energy. Well, maybe we didn't learn about nuclear, but electrical energy. We learned about all these energies in school. Why we cared, I don't know. But what we did not learn about in school, what we were not taught, was biological energy. Now, wait, I know what you're going to say. We were taught about biology, the organs, how they function, but we were not taught about our biological energy. That's which makes us us. That is what allows us for our personalities, our traits, what predisposes us for certain illnesses, diabetes, heart disease, psychological disturbances, anxiety. We have a perfect DNA that knows everything about us, and it's in our energy. But we weren't taught about that in school. And I've asked a lot of teachers over the many years, why is that? Why did I have to know that if I put 2 chemicals together, I was going to get a reaction? Or if I take a plug and stick it into the wall, that I'm going to get light? But I didn't have to know about how I work, how I function, the wonderful things that I can do outside of our normal things every day. And they all agree with me, it's not taught. And again, not being a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, which I pretty much am, There is no rational reason in the world why they couldn't have thrown that topic in, other than, and keep in mind, I'm in healthcare. If we knew from the time we were born, if it was normal knowledge to know how to take care of ourselves, how to stay away from certain things that aren't good for us, certain people, certain places, certain situations, things that we eat, things that we're predisposed to by DNA or by biology, we would be completely different people today now, wouldn't we? We would have a handle on our lives. We'd have a handle on being able to fix ourselves. We'd have a handle on knowing what we need to watch out for. But instead, we have to rely on a healthcare system, pharmacologicals, and doctors and exams and all this other stuff. So again, I'm not getting into it for debate. I just want to let you know it's the same thing with our loved ones. If this was taught in school, which has been written about for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, I think when I was writing my book, and don't quote me because it was 2012, there was writings about the afterlife, not in the Bible, but there was writing about the afterlife, visitations, and our abilities to connect with our loved ones back to, I think the first one was like 1400 that I read. And I'm sure it went back before that because people were having experiences. Other cultures still support the fact that their loved ones are here, but we don't. And it's a real shame. So I'm hoping that after today, you think a little bit differently about, our loved ones. So now I'm going to shock you a little bit. I'm going to tell you about what our loved ones do, because I don't want you to think they're bored all day long. They don't have any worries. And yes, they pretty much are just with us every day, supporting us, guiding us. They do try to get our attention. They do try to help us out, but unfortunately we're not responding to it because we can't recognize the signs. They are with us all the time. And here's where I tell you a little sad story. So we don't get everybody who's passed away. We don't. There's a select few that we get. Most people have 5 to 6 people with them. Now, I would have loved, and I would have thought and told you that my wonderful grandfather, who's on the cover of my book, who was so instrumental to me, would have been with me after he passed. He's not one day since he's passed. I can't explain to you why you maybe don't have someone in your family that you would have wanted if I can't explain it for myself. I can tell you that we don't pick, but somehow there's a process of picking. I was very close to my grandfather. My brothers and sisters were not, yet he is with my older brother, Ronnie. They had no relationship. I can't tell you why that is. But what I can tell you is those that are with you, they're with you all the time, morning, noon, and night. They can be shared with other people, but they don't leave you. So what I need you to know is that you don't need to say, Mom hasn't been with me in a couple of days, or I wish my mom would come visit me. No, Mom's there. I mean, that she's there. You just aren't paying attention. But they see everything you do. So when you're in the shower, yeah, they're with you. When you're on the toilet doing your morning constitutional, yeah, they're with you. When you're in the most intimate moments, yes, they are with you. But before you all freak out and scream, you got to remember what I said at the very beginning. If I walked in on Peggy and she was using the toilet, she'd be mortified and I'd be mortified. Why? Because we're humans. We still have that embarrassment mode. We still have the feelings and the emotions. They don't have that. It's not embarrassment for them. It just is what it is. They don't see it as you sitting on the toilet or doing anything else like that. They are there. So next time you're on the toilet or you're taking a shower, say hi. Not to me, because I'm not there. Now, the other thing I told you before is that they can be shared. So I have both of my grandmothers with me. My rotten grandmother, I'm going to use that term to describe her because she was a horrible person, and my very good grandmother. I was very thrilled when my good grandmother died, and she immediately presented to me. My rotten grandmother, I didn't want. But you don't always, like I said, you don't get picked. So I'm going to tell you a little story about my grandmother just so you can understand the sorrow that I'm in. So my grandmother, the bad one, was a rotten, conniving, lying, nasty, vicious, disgusting woman. And she hears me right now, so that's not a problem. I didn't like her, didn't want nothing to do with her, and pretty much ignored her. So before she died, there was nothing wrong with her. Her mind was clear. Her legs were just giving out, but otherwise she was in great health. So before she died, my father went to go see her at the nursing home on Christmas Eve. She told my father that if he didn't come see her on Christmas Day and he was heading off to Pennsylvania, that she would be dead by the morning. Well, my father used to this kind of behavior growing up. He was just like, okay, Mom, love you, bye. And so that was that. So I'm a director of nursing for large facilities, and I have been for many years. So here is Christmas morning, and I get a phone call, and I'm just assuming it's going to be work calling me to ruin my day. And instead, it's, oh, I'm sorry. I got one story into the other. So yeah, so I was waiting for a phone call from work. I didn't even get a chance to go into the kitchen yet to get myself any breakfast. I go into the kitchen, and there's my grandmother standing in the kitchen. And I was like, because what that means is that she's with me. And I don't want her with me, but I don't have a choice. So I was like, okay, she's dead. So I called my father in Pennsylvania, and I said to him, Dad, Nani's dead. Not a conversation most people would have. My father said to me, well, how do you know? I spoke to the nursing home this morning, and they said she's fine. And I said, because she's in my kitchen. He's like, oh, okay. He says, well, I'll call the nursing home again. So he did. And the first time they said to him, no, she's fine. We just checked on her a little while ago. He asked them to please go back and check again. He did. And they came back to the phone and said, we're very sorry. She's passed. So why is that sad? Well, it's sad for me because I don't want her with me. It's sad because somehow she willed herself to die, which is the most incredible thing that I've ever seen in my life. But she was just that nasty. The other thing is that she is also with my sister Cheryl. Now, so we can share. Now that makes sense because my sister's as nasty as she is. So that makes perfect sense why she would be my sister, but not with me. But the whole thing that I still don't understand, and I don't have all the answers myself, is if my grandfather, who I love so much, can be with my brother, Ronnie, and they can share, we can share, why can't he be with me too? So, you know, I don't have the answer for you, but I want you to know they can be shared. And they don't have to leave me to go, like my nanny doesn't have to leave me to go be with my sister. It's universal. Their energy, they can be all over the place at the same time. If I needed to go be with somebody else, like at Peggy, I'd have to stop talking to you, go get in the car, drive out to where Peggy lives to see her. They don't have to do that. That's not how it works. So to recap, you may get people that you don't want. So what do you do with that? Well, first of all, you know, we all know who's passed away in our life. We all have feelings or hopes of who we wish would be with us. So start practicing connecting with them. Start with the people you want. Start with the people that you would hope would be with you. Take some of their personal items if they had a brooch or a watch or something like that. And we're going to talk about that later. Start with them. Try to get responses from them. The rest of the people, don't worry about it, because if you didn't, they might be there, but who cares? The good news is my nasty, rotten, vicious grandmother can't be nasty, rotten, and vicious anymore. Whatever made her that way when she was alive, those human emotions I was talking about, that's gone. She's not human anymore. Now, if she said to me one day, oh, Sydney, you're so beautiful, I would look at her and say, who the hell are you? Because that doesn't make sense. They're always going to do things that get your attention, that give you validation. So it doesn't make sense for her to make a comment like that, because it's not her. But what she does say to me on a regular basis is, don't wear those pants, your butt is too big. Yeah, that's her. There's no disdain in her voice. There's no nastiness like there used to be. But she's definitely going to still say things like that. She can't hurt me. They don't want to hurt you. They have no desire to hurt anybody. That's a misnomer. And what I can say is, regardless of whether I like her or not, that's my personal human thing, they all give us positive energy. They have not 1 ounce of negative energy in them, so they are very good for us to have around us for our health and otherwise. So I will give her credit and appreciate the fact that she does give me good energy. But other than that, I really don't want anything, you know, to do with her, and that's perfectly acceptable. So even though when they die, we may be only able to see some of them or connect with some of them. When we die, We are all together. So I want to get back to some of the things, the way that they look. So when I see your loved ones who passed away, and my loved ones, if they've died, they're 60, 70, 80 years old, if they died old like that, they come back looking pristine. They come back in their 20s, middle 20s, sometimes early 30s. They do that on purpose because there's no reason in the world for them to have to put on this facade because they don't need that human form anymore. They do that on purpose for us to be able to recognize them. But if they're going to come through, they're going to make sure they look damn good. So if they had an amputation of the legs back, if they were missing teeth, they got all their teeth. They're very vibrant looking. They're very whole looking. But you can definitely tell that they are not a real person, if that's the way you want to put it. If a grandpa dies and a child only knows grandpa is looking like he's 70 or 80 years old, grandpa's not going to come back looking like he's in his 20s. That doesn't make any sense. He's going to present to the child in a way that the child would recognize grandpa. If you've lost a baby or an infant, they will come in the same age that they were. If you lost a child in utero, it's very hard to pick up that energy. You can, the energy is with you. And there's certain techniques that I teach mothers who've lost children, what they can do to connect with that energy. So again, they come looking very whole. Sometimes when they present, I told you before, they look like a shadow figure. Sometimes you can see them from waist up, sometimes from head up, sometimes half of their face. Sometimes they look like a little shadow, not shadow, excuse me, a little line around them, like a little mirage. When you start connecting and learning how to use your nose and your ears and your eyes and your skin, and we're going to talk about the skin in a moment because that's very important. You start having experiences, you put all these things together that you've learned, how they really feel when they touch you, how they really smell when they're that close to you. You put all that stuff together and you start having really good experiences. And the more experiences you have, they get clearer and clearer and clearer. So that's why I say you have to put the time in. Touch is huge. Human emotion and touch is absolutely huge. So when we do our presentation, when we do our workshops, a lot of people say that, oh, I just had a cold breeze on me. It must be someone who's dead. Why? Because we think of dead as being no blood in their body. They're dead. They're a carcass. They're cold. No, actually, if you're waiting for that, it's not them. And you're going to miss them. They actually are warm. They're not hot. They actually have a nice, very light, warm feel to them. So when we do our workshop, I have to bend over for a second. We use a very light washcloth. As I call it, it's not a JCPenney washcloth. It's very thick. It's a lightweight, more like Dollar General washcloth. And we practice with this. So we put the blindfold on and we have their partner lay it in different areas on them so they can see how it feels. Because again, in the beginning, when your loved ones come to you until you finish practicing and you get really good, chances are you're not going to see them. Sight is the last thing. Smell, touch, hearing, sight. In that order is the easiest. So we blindfold because you're trying to use your senses. So we take the washcloth and we place it down on the person's arm and we ask the person to describe it. Okay, I know something's there. It's a little spread out. It's slightly weighted. It has a little warmth to it. Okay, then the person takes their hand and puts their hand here. And the person who's blindfolded says, okay, I know that was a hand. I feel the warmth or I feel the cold. I feel the fingers clenching around it. It's definitely heavier. And then they put the washcloth back on. You do this back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Because remember we said before, your brain is cementing how this feels by repetition. So if you're sitting watching Lawrence Welk on TV, and yeah, I know I just dated myself, I'm sorry. But if you're sitting watching Lawrence Welk on TV and all of a sudden you feel something like that across your arm or across your forehead or across your cheek, your brain's going to go right back to remembering this. Now, that's when you use your validation. You stop. Okay, is the window open? Is my hair brushing against my arm? Is the ceiling fan on? Is the air conditioner on? Did somebody just open a door? You got to be rational. Once you do that, put a name to it. And again, start with one person's name. Whoever died, just start with the first person. It doesn't really take that long because if it's them, they're going to let you know. Mom, if that was you just touching my arm, Please touch my arm right here again. And all of a sudden you feel that washcloth effect. Thank you, Mom. I appreciate it so much. I got to know you're here. You have no idea what your granddaughter's doing to me. I can't stand it. Please touch me right here on my arm again. Boom. You do it over and over and over again. That's how you know it's them. And again, you can do it as many times as you want, but it's important to do it because you need to convince your brain, which has been telling you for years they're not here, it can't be possible. You need to convince your brain that this is very real because it is very real. And that's how you develop your skills. Some of the other misnomers, and this is usually where I get people throwing things at me, but because this is Zoom, I don't have to worry about you throwing things at me. People show me all the time coins. Oh, my dad left me this penny. Okay, let me talk about coins for a minute. Yeah, could a loved one leave a penny for you? Sure. Does change drop out of people's pockets? Yes. You have to be rational. Every penny is not from heaven, and every penny is not from dad or whoever. So again, you come outside, you get in your car, you're having a bad day. There's a penny on the floor, on the floorboard. You pick it up. Oh, thank you, Dad. Well, maybe not. So what you do is you think to yourself first, okay, I could have dropped it. Maybe it came in my pocketbook. Maybe it was in my back pants pocket, whoever. Dad, I'm going to take this penny. I'm going to bring it back in the house and I'm going to put it on the coffee table. And when I come back from work or wherever you're going, I want to see it on my nightstand. Yes, folks, they can do that. You go to the store, wherever, work, wherever you're going, you come back and that dang penny is still sitting there. Try it again. But guess what? If after a while it doesn't move, it's just a penny. Or you come home and, oh my God, it's on my coffee table. You take it off the coffee table. Thank you, Dad. Always acknowledge what they do. Thank you, Dad. I'm going to take this penny and I'm going to put it back on the bedside table. Tomorrow when I get up for work and I go outside, I want to see it back on the floor in the car where I originally found it. You go to bed, it's off the coffee table, you excitedly run outside, and there it is on the floor mat in the car. That's how you know. But until then, a penny is just a penny is just a penny. Cardinals. Okay, and again, people hate me for this, but I'm sorry. Birds will sit on branches and stare in windows. Birds will show up, some of them all time of the years. You can't say it's our loved ones. And our loved ones do not become birds. They don't become chairs. They don't take over hairbrushes or heirlooms. They don't do anything like that. It's not that complicated. They can, in fact, manipulate the environment to make that cardinal sit outside your window every morning at 8 o'clock while you're eating your cornflakes and stare in the window at you. But they're not the cardinal, but they can manipulate the environment. So I just want people to stop. I get pictures sent to me all the time of, Mom was with me today because look at the picture of the cloud I took when I was walking on the beach. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, what is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? And they say to me, oh, don't you see the heart? Let's talk about matrixing again. The brain is going to see what the brain wants to see. If it was a perfectly shaped heart and everybody agreed, that's great. But 9 times out of 10, if you go back to the paranormal shows, they're doing an EVP session. For those of you who don't know what an EVP session is, they're using a little tape recorder like this. I don't know if you can see it, a little handheld device, walking around the room, making all sorts of noise, putting dust into the air that everybody says is orbs. So they think spirits are there, talking all over each other. And all of a sudden, when you're watching them on the shows, you hear, and you're at home and you're like, huh, what was that? And of course, they have to do the very dramatic while the music goes up higher. Did you hear that? Okay, no, I heard something, but I don't know what it is. So when they listen back to the tape, do you hear that? They're saying, help me. They play the tape back, and what do you think you hear? You hear, help me. That's how the brain works. So your brain can be matrixed. It's the same thing with sight. So this girl who's sending me this picture of this beautiful, perfect heart cloud that was over her while she was walking the beach, so she knew it was her mother. I didn't see a heart in it at all. I showed it to several people. Everybody's like, that's just a glob. There's no heart. She saw a heart because she wanted to see a heart. And I'm okay with that. If that makes you feel better, if it soothes your heart because it's aching, go for it. as long as you understand that chances are it's just the cloud looking like a heart to you. I worked with a woman who was in her 70s, I think, back when I was giving readings. Very sweet lady. She lost her husband. They never had any children. So he was her lifeline. They dated, I think she was 13, if I can remember the story correctly. So I worked with her for a long time, and they were having wonderful times together. She was playing cards with him, and he was still pushing the cards out of her hand. And she would say they would spoon. And even though I'm 58 years old at that time, I think I was like 50. And that first time I learned what the word spooning meant. So that shows you how much I get around. But she said she could still feel him cuddle with her. This is awesome. This is absolutely what we want. So one day she said to me, she goes, Sydney, you've got to come with me to the cemetery. She was raised Catholic, so no matter how much I told her that she knew her husband was with her, she still felt the need to go to that cemetery. Whatever. You got to come with me. You got to see all the butterflies. There's butterflies all over his grave. It's the same time every year. Every year, I know it's from him. I know it's a sign. And even though I'm trying to tell her probably not, she was insistent. So I went to the cemetery with her. Probably about 4 feet away from his headstone, maybe a little bit more, was a butterfly bush. And yes, there was tons of butterflies. So I looked at her and I said, sweetheart, okay, please. You said this happens around the same time every year. There's a butterfly bush over there. That's what they do. It's not your husband. It's not your husband. You're having wonderful experiences with your husband. You don't need this. You don't need to create and fabricate something. That's my husband, she says. And I'm like, sweetheart, it's not. It's a butterfly bush. That's my husband. Okay, fine, it's your husband. I mean, I don't know what to say at that point. If people want to hold on to these kind of things that don't make sense, fine. If it gives you comfort, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. But I really want you to think outside of what they've taught you on TV and really just take on the responsibility of learning to communicate with them yourself. You have everything you need. I can't see all your wonderful faces, but I guarantee you all have noses and eyes and ears and skin. And that is all you need. The only difference with me is I was raised by a wacky papa who also was able to see because that's how he was raised. And of course, I gave birth to a child that can do the same thing. And I have 2 grandchildren who can do the same thing. So it is absolutely biological in nature. But I don't want you to miss any opportunity you possibly have with them. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. What I also tell people is come up with a key word. Before somebody dies, if you know they're dying and they have cancer, you know they don't got much longer, come up with a key word or a phrase or something like that only you know. So let's say it's pumpernickel, to say that. When the person dies, they should be able to show you clearly that sign. And what I mean by that is, so they die, you get in your car, a couple of days later, you turn on the radio, and there's a commercial for pumpernickel bread on sale, 5 loaves for $1. Again, I'm dating myself. Oh, that's interesting. But you know what? There's commercials, and they do stuff like that. And so you're driving down this road, you turn in a truck pulls in front of you, and it's a truck with a big piece of bread on the side of it, and it says pumpernickel. Well, that's kind of interesting too. And you keep on driving, and you pass a road, and the name of the road is Pumpernickel. That is them. That is them trying to get your attention, and they try to get your attention all the time. They will smack you on the top of the head. They will pull your hair. They will knock things over. They will grab you by the arm. But you got to understand, they don't have a hand anymore like you and me, but they're using their energy, and it's their energy that guides them, and that's how they connect with us. So the last part of this that I want people to know about the other workshop Peggy and I offer. Oh, excuse me, I forgot. Very important. I know that always comes up the question about what about pets? Well, our pets are still with us after they die too. Just like our loved ones are, they're here too. And you can connect with them. So I'm going to let Peggy, who's wonderful with pets, I mean, she's like the pet connector or something. I don't know what it is. I'm going to let her explain to you how you can connect with your pets that have passed. Go ahead, Peggy.
I'm here. In July, my dog passed away. She was 12 years old. And she still goes and opens up the bathroom door on me. It's really easy to connect with them. You save their collars, their leashes, their toys, their beds, and throw the ball. Let them go after it. Uh, Tap on your lap, have them jump up on your lap, especially if they were a lap dog or even the cat. There is, gotta think of this here. If your dog goes to the door and scratches at the door to go outside, or even scratches to come in, tell them to do it. Have them go over and do it. Have them do things that you used to do with them when they were alive. Because I've got cats here and dogs here that still do things that they used to do. My dog that I had before this last dog likes to lay right where the entrance used to be between the kitchen and the dining room. We took the whole wall down, but she still lays in that one spot where the door was and waits for me to give her a treat while I'm cooking. So it's pretty much, it's like with humans, you gotta have some kind of intervention with them. Talk to them like you were sitting down next to them and they're listening to you.
Very good, Peggy. Yep. I see pets. I see animals too. Like I said, Peggy is a little more of a pet whisperer. She's very good with people too. But she really just has this connection to pets. And because she's had pets for so long in her life, her house is quite full. But again, just do the same thing with them. And again, I had to sneeze, so excuse me. So I wasn't sure if you said the part about keeping their toys and things like that. Yeah. You did, right? Okay. Don't throw out their stuff because those are objects that you can use. And there's a thing called object manipulation. So let's just say you have an object of theirs, a loved one who's passed away. So I have here my grandmother's castanets. I don't know if anybody can see them, You can take something that is theirs and lay it down and ask them to move it. Now, what I need you to remember is energy to energy is easy. Energy to an inanimate object takes them a little longer. So for them to touch you, for them to do something that they use their energy for, to create their familiar center, to talk to you, you should expect a pretty quick response. Energy to an inanimate object, for them to move it, takes them a little bit longer. So lay something down, cut them some slack, give them a little time and ask them to move it. The reason why you use something that is theirs or something that was there is it just triggers a memory. But if you don't have something like that, that's fine too. So when your loved ones are connecting with you, as I said before, they're connecting with your energy to their energy. So one of the other workshops that Peggy and I developed, only because of the fact that you really have to be able to know how to use your own energy to use your senses, is what's called an aura. So I'm not going to go into the whole aura thing now because we don't have that much time, but I want you to understand how important your energy is to do this. So for those of you who don't know what an aura is or have misinformation about what an aura is, the aura is the energy field that is around all of us, kind of like a protective mechanism for our energy. It's the outside part of our energy. Inside that is the makings of the aura, and it has a color. And it's biologically you. So there's many different aura colors. There's blue, there's violet, there's yellow, there's green, there's red, there's gray, there's brown. There's every color you can think of. And certain aura colors by biology indicate certain traits and characteristics a person might demonstrate. So, and again, without getting into the whole thing, blues and violets are known for having increased sensory awareness of some kind. Kind of like a third eye or gut intuitiveness. So now Peggy's a blue. That means she's an empathetic, and she has a gut sense about things and people and places. She doesn't feel right around certain people, or she knows things are going to happen. She's very good. I'm a violet. My violet, where my senses are, is an increased ability to hear, see, smell, and feel that which is seen, that we can all see, and that which is unseen, which is our loved ones. It doesn't mean that people who are not those colors can't do it. Everybody can do what we're talking about today. It just means that people who are blue or violets just have a little bit more of a help. They already have a little, they're already ahead of the game a little bit. Your biological color is based on the workings of your body. It's based upon your digestion, your perspiration, cellular division, all that stuff. So when it comes off of you and goes into that energy aura around you, that field, it gets trapped in there and it leaves that color. So really what your aura is waste products. That's pretty much what it is. It isn't pretty. It isn't spiritual or anything like that. It literally is waste products of your body working. But because it's your enzymes, your breakdown, it is biologically you, and it does tell a story about your health and who you are and how your body works, why you act certain ways, why you don't like being around certain people or places or things. We're a really good compass and a radar inside us, and we need to use it. So before, when I talk to you about, we're not taught about this stuff in school, that would be very valuable, important to know when we're younger, so we can use that to our benefit. And one of the benefits is connecting to our loved ones. So we do aura workshops. We do a lot of Zoom ones now, unfortunately, because of COVID. And we teach people to know their color and the placement of their color, because it's two different things, and how they can use it to their benefit. And I will tell you, I've been doing this for years, way too many. I have my hair colored so you can't see the gray, thank God. But I've been doing it for a lot of years. And I will go up to people I've never met in my life, and I will tell them their life story, things that they suffer from, diseases that they have, their personality, their traits, things that they like, foods they hate. And they'll be like, I don't even know you. I don't need to know you. I can see your aura color. So it tells a script. That's important because it is also going to help you understand where your strengths are. So maybe you're better at smelling and feeling, not so much maybe with hearing or feeling. I mean, feeling, yes. So that's good to know. It lets you know how close they need to get to you to be able to feel them. It lets you know what you should be feeling by understanding your aura and how your aura is going to feel when they touch you or when they come close. So another good reason about knowing your aura, obviously, is it tells you what things you should stay away from. Obviously, if you are a yellow, you're predisposed to certain types of cancer, like pancreatic cancer, colon cancer. So if you knew that when you were younger, obviously maybe you change your diet a little bit, or maybe you'd be having more tests so you can catch things earlier. It's just a good thing to know. But for today's topic, it's really good to know to connect with your loved one, because it is your energy, your aura, that is connecting with their energy. So in closing, because I see it's 4 o'clock and I wasn't sure how long I was supposed to speak, and I definitely want questions, and I can talk all day long for those of you who never met me before, and Peggy can tell you, I literally can talk all day long. Right, Peggy?
Yes.
Just say
You
yes.
know, there's a bunch of questions in the chat. Do you see them there?
I don't see him there, but I'm going to get to him. So that's why I want to be able to shut up so that people can tell. I don't have a thing to put up, but if anybody has any questions, anybody who wants to, talk to me after this, you can email me at Sydney Sherman. Did you put it up already?
I put it in the chat. So if everybody wants to know where the chat is, go down to the bottom of your screen and it says chat. So press on that and the message will be in there with her email address and her website.
Yes, the website will tell you where else I have events or what days I'm doing Zoom workshops. Peggy and I can do private ones, so if you don't want to be in a group, we could do it that way. And it's just, and also I have a Facebook page. It's Sydney Sherman Author. So, as long as you don't harass me with political stuff, I will accept your friend request.
And she also teaches Reiki.
Oh, Peggy and I both teach Reiki. We're both Reiki masters. And we also do a lot with Reiki. We do teach the Reiki 1, 2, and 3 master class. And again, Zoom's been working out really well with that. So with that being said, thank you, Peggy. I guess that gentleman lost his role and you're back to being my assistant.
Okay. Sorry, Scott.
Katie, I guess it's back to you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. That was wonderful. I can go through the questions. Someone was asking about where to purchase the book, and then Peggy posted to go to the website, so sydneyshermanauthor.com. The next question is, if someone dies of Alzheimer's or dementia, are they back in their right mind once they pass?
Absolutely, because that was a physical ailment that they had, a flaw, but no, they're pristine in every way, shape, or form. They are very, very clear, and they're way above us. They know a lot more stuff than we do, and they got it going on. And I just want to clarify, if anybody would prefer to get a book that is signed by me, email me. I'm sorry, Peggy, you put the email, the yahoo.com, right?
Yes.
Because then I will just mail it from here.
She's muted for some reason. I didn't do it this time.
All right. So again, somebody keeps, somebody keeps muting me. It's not my grandmother's, because I can see them right here and they're not playing games with me.
That was my fault this time.
So anyway, okay, see, it wasn't a ghost. You can't blame everything on ghosts. Again, so if anybody would rather have a book directly from me, I can mail it, I can sign it. If you don't want to sign, that's fine, but otherwise just email me. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, next question is, what do you think of high-pitched ringing in the ears all the time? From Aaron.
I think that could be tinnitus. It could be neuroma. I am a nurse. You got to remember that. I always go rational, logical first. There are anatomical reasons why we get the ringing in our ear. Our loved ones are not going to cause constant ringing in our ears, because that's just not what they're going to do. However, if you are a life color, the blue and the violet that I talked about before, we do have a tendency at time for our hearing to be impacted when we're around certain energies or certain environments. So if I was going to lean either way, I'd have to say it could be that you're a life color, but I can definitely tell you your loved ones are not going to make constant ringing in your ear.
Okay. Well, and just a comment from that same Erin. She said her best friend passed a month ago, and she comes to see her at night. She is so beautiful, bright, always daylight on her face.
That's beautiful. And that's exactly how they look. They also can look like bubble wrap, but that's their energy around them. And they can also look like they're standing under a waterfall. But again, that's their energy that's around them. So.
Martina says, I've been smelling cheap perfume and flowers. Is there something to it? Also, a few years ago, I was violently pushed in a haunted castle and the energy felt extremely negative. What are your thoughts on this? I was considering visiting the castle and confronting this energy.
Well, I'm going to take the second question first. I'm probably not the best person to answer that question, because I have never once in my life seen a negative energy of a deceased person. As far as I'm concerned, the negative rotten energy is in the living. So I can't answer that question, because 9 times out of 10 things that people experience in places like that, or in a cemetery, or going to places they've already been told and conditioned in their mind were haunted, are things that aren't what people assume that they are, or they are predisposed feeling to when something happens and they create something. So I can't tell you about that, because again, I'm 58 years old. I think that if there was actual negative energy out there as far as coming from a demonic place, I would have seen it. Really, the only negative rotten people I've seen are the living. Once they're dead, they're all great. As far as the first question, I'm sorry.
Smelling cheap perfume and flowers, is there something to it?
Well, I don't know. Was there some, cheap perfume, huh? Well, yes and no. I mean, again, there might have been somebody in your family who's passed away that they were known for that maybe you don't know. When I was a little girl, before anybody died, I had people around me. I just didn't know who they were because I never met them before. It wasn't until I got older, I explained the people to my father. My father was able to tell me who they were. And yes, they had certain smells that I couldn't put together because I didn't know. But that's because I didn't know these people. So what you first should do is to stop and start asking people who have passed away, who are around you, if they're around you, and see if you can call their name to see if you get the smell of the flowers or the cheap perfume, to put the two together. If you don't, it could be something else in the environment that has nothing to do with them. Or it could be somebody who's passed away that you never would have had a relationship with so many generations back, and there's nothing you can do about it because you don't really care about them anyway. You're welcome, Martina. Oh, as far as going to the haunted house, go have a blast, but it's kind of like a Ouija board. Go ahead and play with the Ouija board. It's a board. It's no different than a Milton Bradley Monopoly board. It ain't going to hurt you. It's the preconceived notions that we have when we play stuff like this is something's going to happen. So ultimately something happens because we have already put ourselves out there with that. So play with the Ouija board. Don't play with it. I don't care.
Tish
What
would
else?
like to know, how do we know who is with us as a spirit guide?
Yeah, that's tough. Because I really don't want people to, if they don't have to, go to psychics or mediums, especially now. And the reason for that is because there's some dubious things going on. And I usually talk about, I'm surprised Peggy didn't remind me, the last chapter of my book is called The Reader.
Sorry.
And put chapter, what?
I said
Sorry. And the reason I put that chapter in there is because there's always been charlatans out there. I mean, but there's also very legit people, but there's charlatans. And they have ways of getting information about you. They always have. They're very good at it. They read your body language. They read your eyebrows. They read your wiggling in the chair. They ask questions of you that they know you're going to answer, and you don't realize that they are they don't answer. They realize that you're giving them information with, what you say. So the last part of my book tells people about how to watch out for going to people like that. And just to give you an idea, now with Google, what I told people toward the end when I stopped giving readings were to create a fake email account and do not give me their real first name, because honestly, you don't need any of that stuff. Nobody really needs your name or the town you live in. So once you give them your name to make an appointment, they got everything they need to have on you. And I'm telling you, that's the way it goes. So stay away from them. Read the last chapter of my book. It gives you a bunch of helpful hints how you can tell if somebody's fake or legitimate. But you really can do this yourself. So now that I went into that long tear, what was the question? Hey, it's that kind of a day. What was the original question? Because I know I wanted to make sure I talked about fakes and frauds.
Who is with us as a spirit guide?
Oh, okay. So when you're doing this by yourself, it is a little difficult, but I'd say start with the people you know have died. And you can call them spirit guides. I mean, if you want, that's fine. They're just your loved ones, but everybody, or angels, I don't really care. I use the same term. Start with one person and ask them to come close to you. And ask them, close your eyes, and ask them to touch you in different areas. Ask them to move something. Ask them to close the door. Ask them to open a cabinet. If you don't get some responses, and give them time, as I said, if you don't get some responses, move on to the next person. It really isn't that hard. Usually once they see you're acknowledging them, they really go out of their way to try to get your attention. So that's what they want. The only thing that's going to may stand in your way is if your aura is a pretty yucky, if your aura, especially around your head, is not doing well, then you may be a diminished capacity to be able to feel them. But I still tell people, go for it, because you may not feel them 100%, but even if you feel them 20%, it's better than nothing. Just weed your way through, but start with the people that you know and you care about who have passed away. Then work on the other people. How do I know if I have a yucky aura? I'm telling you, you do. I can't even see you. Everybody in the world right now has a yucky aura. And there's a whole reason for that. No, seriously, everybody. Mine is, Peggy's is, everybody's yucky aura is really, really bad now. And it's because of our brains, and it's because of the constant stress we have in our lives now. And it's because, very quickly, because we are supposed to be having a nice surge in our brain of the neurochemicals, dopamine and serotonin, and supposed to be nice and even like this all day long. And every once in a while, when we get into a situation that's stressful, our body shoots out a little adrenaline, a little ephedrine, irritates the brain a little bit, but it gets us through the trauma. And then we go back to our nice little serotonin and dopamine. The problem is, even though that's how our brain is supposed to work, because we are stressed between jobs and marriages and kids and COVID and religion and politics and TV and bills and losing houses and losing jobs, our brain is constantly releasing those neurochemicals that are irritating to the brain. So we get yucky. We are all yucky. We all need a group Reiki session. That's that.
Definitely.
No. Can your aura color change? No. If you are born a blue, you'll always be a blue or a green. Let's talk about greens for a second. I doubt there's one green on here, but because I can't see y'all, I can't tell. Well, actually, you can't see somebody's aura, but I pretty much can tell by people's expression when I talk to them. A green. A green is probably the nastiest aura on the face of the planet. A green aura is somebody who's malicious. They're ego-driven. They're nasty. They're violent. They're all about themselves. They're self-loving. They're liars. They're cheats. And they really don't mind the carnage that they leave in their wake after they use you of everything and rob you of everything that they possibly can. They go on their merry way. Those are green. I see what somebody posted. Okay. Anyway, that's a green. Greens are not nice people. But usually greens don't come to my events because they don't need anybody else because they're the best on the face of the planet and they're just wonderful. But every color you are, whatever you're born with, is what you are going to be the rest of your life. As you go through experiences, if you have a bellyache one day, yeah, your color might look a little faded. Your color might look a little ugh, but you're not going to all of a sudden be a brown or a gray or a different color. So your color does not change. Next.
All right. Catherine says, I've had very negative experiences which could be considered demonic. What is your take on demons, elementals, poltergeists, etc.?
Well, poltergeist is a scientific actual phenomenon, and they've known about it for at least 60 years now, and they've been able to prove it. We are the poltergeist, us. We are the poltergeist. If our bodies go through too much stress, and it comes back to our energy, if we're under too much duress or stress for a prolonged period of time, our brain has a way of capping itself off to try to save us from the reality of our situation. So we actually create negative energy, and it's really very real. It's there, it's in front of us, but we create it. It has nothing to do with a demon or somebody who's died or a negative energy. It is our negative energy that we're projecting out. That's been well documented for a long time. Again, demons, I believe in the Bible, and I believe that there is a devil, and I believe that he's probably got his little minions and all this other stuff. But again, I have never witnessed anything demonic in all my years as far as our loved ones. The horrible things that I've seen done to people are done by other people who are living. Angels, people ask me about angels or malevolent spirits and stuff like that. Again, I've never seen an angel in my life. I see our loved ones. So if you want to call them angels, call them angels. But as far as the angelic thing with the wings that are floating up in space, I've never seen that. What's my thoughts on the movie of The Conjuring? Very good for entertainment purposes only. Now, if I wanted to lie and put some stuff in there and fake it and say about people being pushed downstairs, I would have been on Lifetime making $5,000 an episode. But that's not me. Yes, $5,000 an episode. Isn't that nice? Boy, I'm an idiot. Stop it, Peggy. Who's next? Anybody?
Back to the aura. Nicola asked, how do we work out our aura?
How do we do what to the aura?
Work it out. Yes, work out what color we are.
Oh, okay. So you mean probably to find out what color you are? Usually, first of all, everybody can see auras. Everybody can learn to see auras. Okay, here we go. Here's the thing. If anybody remembers who's as old as me and Peggy, one of these books right here, it's the Magic Eye book, and you really can't see the picture until you put it close to your eyes, and then when you pull out, the picture pops out. It's the same thing with the aura. Our brains can see auras, but then we've never used it. So once your eyes learn how to see the auras and know how to hold itself, it's easy. So you can go to somebody who's already knows how to see auras, and they can tell you what your color is. Or you can learn how to see other people's auras. You can't see your own, but just by learning about auras, you learn a lot about yourself. So that's very helpful. As far as working it out goes, there's many different things that you can do to clean your aura up or to make yourself healthy. Reiki is one of them. Yoga is another. Listening to 444 hertz music, which is usually what they play during Reiki or meditation. Saging, deep breathing, salt lamps, stones. There's a whole bunch. And Peggy and I do workshops on that too, of things that you can use. That it's the whole purpose of all of it is in order to clean your aura and to get back to where you need to be in some semblance of calm, you need to stop these surges of the ephedrine and the adrenaline in your brain, and you need to dump a lot of dopamine. So breathing in the sage, having Reiki, listening to Reiki music, all these things dump massive amounts of dopamine, and that repairs your aura. That's in a nutshell, just very quickly. Now, in your book, you talked about, I can't read that. I see the first part, but not the second.
Basically, it says, does that mean spirits can know the future? Where you talked about a
You know
situation
what?
where someone was stopped from driving down a street and then a tree fell?
Oh, in my book, that's what they started to say. It was in my book.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and they will. A lot of times they do know the future, and that's why a lot of times, you know, they'll the analogy I always use is they'll take your keys and they'll lose them. So that by the time to find the keys, it makes you late. But if you had left the house when you were supposed to, you may have been involved in a car accident. And they will do things to try to intervene or to get your attention or to help you make a decision. If we listen, absolutely. But there are also times when they will step back and allow something to happen because that's a part of your journey and that's something you have to go through, including death.
So it's
Last time I was
4:17.
able to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. No, I said usually used to I was able to see the questions on the side, but I can't now, so that's okay.
Okay, we're basically up to the end, so maybe this is a good time to wrap it up. I think the people have been really appreciating this event. I will say if people want to come to more events, they can go to your website, sydneyshermanauthor.com. There's just a lot of thank yous in the chat, so thank you very much.
Thank you. I wish I could see all your faces and breathe on you, but you know, COVID, so.
Aaron asked the question, can you recognize others with the abilities like yours?
Yes, everybody I look at every single day. I'm telling you, everybody can do this. There's no difference. We're all the same, so everybody can do it. Can I recognize people who already got it going on? Yes, but literally everybody can do it. And I thank everybody for coming today. And again, please visit my website. You're going to have more questions. There's not enough time. I will always answer any questions you have through my email or through Facebook or whatever.
Bye.
Is that it? And thank you, Katie.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Katie.
All right, bye-bye.